Hello everyone, here we are in 2022, and today we're going to talk about what else I saw in December, which was not much. I just didn't have a whole lot of downtime for watching movies last month, which is pretty much how it goes in December. I remember one December a couple years ago where I only had 3 movies to talk about in this video, so comparatively speaking, 7 movies is pretty good. It's about on par with the average, so I don't really have a whole lot of complaints here. It is what it is. Movie number 1 is a newish film that's currently on Amazon Prime. A couple of you last year asked if I had seen it, and that's what put it on my radar. 2020's The Courier, a Cold War-era film based on real events, in which Benedict Cumberbatch stars as Greville Wynne, a fairly average British salesman persuaded by CIA and MI6 operatives to go to Russia and establish contact with someone on the inside, which leads to the exchange of top-secret information. Wynne is an unlikely candidate for espionage, and the anxiety of his new job takes a toll on him, while his frequent trips, sudden secrecy, and altered behavior put a strain on his marriage. It's a tense drama, and the performances are all good, particularly those from Cumberbatch, who has to undergo a couple physical transformations. I'm gonna butcher this name. Merab Ninidze as the Russian contact, and Jessie Buckley as Wynne's wife. I enjoyed the film a lot. It's a tense story with a cast of compelling characters. It also has a nice score composed by, I'm gonna butcher this one too, Abel Korzeniowski, which has a Shostakovichian waltz theme, and we're off to a great start this year, aren't we? And if I can talk typography for a second, they did one good thing and one bad thing here. I found the opening and ending titles quite aesthetically pleasing. It's an odd thing to compliment, I know, but the font is striking, and I appreciated that the words were nice and easy to read. The bad thing is that there were no periods at the ends of sentences in the subtitles, and this is a movie where there are quite a few subtitles. Is this the new thing? Are we just gonna leave off important punctuation? 'Cause if that's the new trend, I don't like it. I don't approve. I'm not on board for that. Periods are important. Anyway, other than that, it's a good film. Movie number 2 is 1997's Final Descent, a TV movie that stars Robert Urich as a seasoned airline pilot whose insistence on flying the plane himself rather than relying on computers comes in handy when a collision sends the plane into a perpetual ascent that will eventually end in disaster. In the meantime, he has personal conflict with the co-pilot, played by Annette O'Toole, who Urich is romantically involved with but unwilling to commit to, while another pilot and romantic rival, played by John Delancey, is along for a routine check. Being a 90s TV movie, it has its corny moments, and there were a couple times in the very beginning where I thought, I don't know about this. But once things get rolling, it's an entertaining and gripping film, just as enjoyable as any of the bigger budget flight disaster films of the 70s that I talked about last year. I'm also 99% sure I had seen at least part of this before, possibly around the time that it first aired. It's a plane disaster movie with Q from Star Trek, so I can't imagine that my mom would have missed that. And she did watch Lifetime back in the 90s, which I think is where this aired. Say what you will about Lifetime, they showed some good movies back in the day. I don't know what they're doing now, but I do have positive memories of quite a few movies that they played on Lifetime way back when. Movies that were based on true stories, movies about disasters. So much of this rang a bell. I have not looked it up to see if I'm correct about this, but I got a pretty good feeling. Movie number 3 is a rewatch that feels like it's been a long time coming, but hasn't. I've been itching to revisit 1975's Picnic at Hanging Rock ever since seeing it the first time in September of 2020, but I let some time go by. Not that I was able to forget the film in the intervening months. I've thought about it many times since. This past fall, I read the book by Joan Lindsay, which was just as haunting, though in a slightly different way. I wasn't planning to rewatch the movie quite so soon after reading the book, but Turner Classic Movies aired it and then put it on their streaming app, and I noticed it was up there, and when I asked my mom if she was up for watching it again, she was all for it. I would amend something I said when I talked about the book recently. I claimed the film was about as close and as faithful an adaptation as you could get. Well, having seen it again, I'd say that that's mostly true, especially when it comes to the film's recreation of the book's unique atmosphere and sense of mystery and awe, but it does include several changes and omissions, especially with regard to certain characters' ultimate fates, and if you've read the book, you know what I'm talking about. These aren't tremendous alterations, however, and I don't think they hurt the film. Because I was less focused on the question of what on earth is going on here and what's going to happen next, I was free to take in more of the film's artistry, the subtle touches and nuances, and the pure aesthetics. I appreciated anew the smooth fade of the opening shot, the peculiar angles at which the mountain is photographed, the presence of swan symbolism from the very beginning, and the exotic and strange beauty of the music, the pan flute as this kind of lazy, hazy beckoning, and the synth motif's conveyance of potential terror. The film inspired some different responses in me the second time around, but I found it just as haunting and fascinating as I did the first time, as did my mom. After watching it and discussing it, because it is a film that provokes discussion, I said to her, "So, you want to watch this again the next time it shows up?" And she said, "Sure." By the way, if you're interested in hearing my first impressions of Picnic at Hanging Rock, you can check out the link that I've provided in the description below. Movie number 4 is a western, 1967's Will Penny, which stars Charlton Heston in his personal favorite role as a mature cowpoke drifting from one job to another who finds himself the target of a family of revenge-hungry rawhiders and the protector of a woman, played by Joan Hackett, and her son he finds squatting in his cabin. It takes a little bit for the main story to kick into gear here, but it's a good film, emphasizing the solitude and unsteadiness of a cowboy's life. Heston's character is gruff, but humble and good-hearted, with an endearing kindness under the surface, and I liked the way the bond developed between the main characters. It was gradual and timid, not an all-at-once kind of thing. And hey, this turned out to be a Christmas movie. Kind of. The last act takes place at Christmas, and there's a whole sequence where the boy sings O Tannenbaum, and they try to teach Will to sing Deck the Halls, which was really awkward but fun. I had no idea. Donald Pleasance plays the villainous preacher and patriarch, wide-eyed and just hovering on the edge of lunacy, with a hillbilly accent and some high-spirited antics to boot. He almost steals the show, and Bruce Dern is featured as his creepy son. One drawback for me is that it's one of those movies where the fistfights feel like they go on for a painfully long time. It's like, okay, I get it, they're beating the snot out of him. I also agree with my mom a little bit that the ending was a letdown. Realistic, sensible, and all that, but, well, as she put it, it didn't end right. Movie number 5 had us getting more into the Christmas spirit with a rewatch of an old favorite, the 1951 version of A Christmas Carol, with Alistair Sim as Ebenezer Scrooge. I've said it before, but it bears repeating, Alistair Sim is my favorite Scrooge. His wonderful performance strikes every note perfectly and ranges from subtle sensitivity to outright hilarity. There's a depth to it that I don't think people give him as much credit for, focusing as they do on the humor of the final section. That said, no other Scrooge on Christmas morning can beat him. The Simisms make the movie. Without him, I don't think I'd love it as much. Not that the rest of it isn't great. Performances all around are solid, with a score of recognizable names and faces. The effects are quite good, and it seems no matter what version I'm watching, the part with the Cratchits trying to hold it together in the yet-to-come sequence always brings a tear to my eye. But Alistair Sim is the key to everything. Movie number 6 is one that we had on our Prime watch list all year, possibly for 2 years, I don't know, but we kept passing on it. Even though I'm the one that picks the entertainment, I still like to give my parents a couple options. So it would always be, we could watch this movie, or we could watch that movie. Or if you don't like either of those, we could watch the Wild Geese, har har har. We decided against the Wild Geese so often that it became a running joke like that. But in the middle of December, when nothing else was catching our fancy, we decided to give it a chance. And, well, turns out 1978's The Wild Geese was much better than I anticipated. A team of mercenaries, headed by Richard Burton, with Richard Harris, Roger Moore, and Hardy Kruger, is sent to Africa to break an African president out of prison before his execution. I enjoyed it quite a lot. It was tense, and the action was stimulating, but it was also emotionally engaging. The group largely consists of men who are past their prime, and their efforts to get back in shape is a source of some comic relief. But I was pleasantly surprised by how well the characters were fleshed out, how the story took the time to explore relationships and expand on personal conflicts, while still being a quick-paced action-adventure shoot-'em-up. And it was good that they handled these things so well throughout, for the ending was then able to have that much more impact. Richard Burton is a hardened figure here, but not uncrackable, and I like Richard Harris better in this than I have in any other film I've seen him in to date. It's got rousing music, composed by Roy Budd, with some help from Alexander Borodin, good heist-like scenes, a great setup for a twist, and a jaded ending appropriate for its time, but not without a sense of hope. And honestly, if it hadn't had that sense of hope, I'd probably have come away with a much more bitter reaction. And would you believe it, this turned out to be a Christmas movie too. The big event happens on Christmas Day. I was shocked. Again, it's not really a Christmas movie, and we don't need to argue about defining what makes something a Christmas movie, and blah blah blah, that argument that's been going on for 10 years or so about Die Hard. I am the type person that when we're watching something and there's a scene that takes place at Christmas or an entire sequence, I make the joke, hey, it's a Christmas movie. When you're watching that movie at Christmas time and you weren't expecting it, I don't know, there's something kind of special about that. And here I was feeling a little guilty that we weren't watching as many Christmas movies this year, and then 2 of them turn out to be Christmas-related after all. Who'da thunk it? The last one, movie number 7, was another rewatch of an old favorite, Home Alone from 1990, where Kevin McAllister, played by Macaulay Culkin, is accidentally left behind when his whole family leaves to spend the holidays in Paris. Home Alone has always been one of my favorite Christmas movies. I love all the music, John Williams' score, and the other song choices. I enjoy the whimsy and the humor. There are things about Kevin that I find pretty relatable, being the youngest in a large family, being psyched to have the house to himself for once, and then finding it kind of scary, being afraid of the furnace in the basement. There are so many angles that I like. Kevin's growth from a smart aleck brat to a sweet, resourceful kid, the way he learns he really does love his family, the determination of the mortified mother to get back to her little boy, and the reveal that Old Man Marley is a kindly gentleman with a problem a lot like Kevin's. The reunion at the end, so well played by Macaulay Culkin and Catherine O'Hara, always gets me going. But what I noticed this time around is that the scene in the church is also a great one. It's a pivotal point in Kevin's emotional development, and it's so perfectly acted, and it's the calm before the storm that is the war for the McAllister house between Kevin and the Wet Bandits. And Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern make such a great pair of wicked idiots. But oh my goodness, do I get a different view of the physical damage they sustain as I get older. I found myself laughing a little bit less through that whole thing, and cringing a lot more. But that said, I still find it plenty entertaining, taking it in the spirit in which it was intended. And the stuff with the fake noir movie, keep the change, you filthy animal, will always be a highlight. Okay, folks, that's what else I saw in December. I hope you enjoyed the list. Feel free to share what you think of any of these movies if you've seen them in the comments below, or go ahead and share what you saw last month. I'll be looking forward to hearing what y'all have to say, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.